Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, the Democrats are always going on with their buzzwords, right? Diversity, sustainability, and diversity, and inclusion and sustainability, and diversity and inclusion. Everything's the same thing, right? All these buzzwords. You know, we got all these leftoids repeating these buzzwords. Squawk, 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 squawk. But in a way, it's almost as if they don't know what these words mean. Diversity. They think they know what that word means, but they confuse diversity for the term tokenism. And now this other buzzword, sustainability. Yeah, they talk a whole lot about sustainability, but clearly they don't care too much about sustainability, and their actions tell us that, because they have created a totally unsustainable environment. And that's what we're talking about today, the unsustainable environment in Washington that the left has created. And I got the perfect visual metaphor to help me make this point and highlight this very important issue. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, I got a clip to show you guys. Here's Merrick Garland on his final day as Attorney General, and thank the Lord for that, packing up his stuff and leaving the building, and take a look at what happened. The guy's getting a freaking standing ovation. This video, I'm telling you, it's just the chef's kiss as far as metaphors go. It's absolutely perfect. It almost feels as though what we just witnessed there was a deep state circle jerk, with all the bureaucratic foot soldiers cheering on for their fearless leader as he exits stage left. If you ever needed a visual representation of just how one-sided, bloated, and partisan the federal government has become, there it is. And that's what I mean by these people don't understand what the term sustainable means. Because this right here, what you are seeing is not a sustainable practice. Now, sure, it's Washington, D.C., so of course there might be a left-wing bias, considering D.C. is overwhelmingly Democrat-leaning. But let's not pretend that this is just a D.C. problem, because it's not. The issue is systemic. I mean, we've covered the studies showing that upwards of 70, 80, even 90% of federal employees lean Democrat. And if that's the case, that's not a government, that's a monopoly. How can we have a fair and functional federal government when it's staffed by people who are ideologically committed to one side of the political spectrum? Well, spoiler alert, you can't. And the consequences are everywhere. We've already seen them. Just look at Crossfire Hurricane, for instance. You had FBI agents like Peter Strzok and Lisa Page openly texting about their insurance policy to sabotage the Trump administration. Or rather, not to sabotage the Trump administration, but to literally unseat the president. In other words, we had federal employees who orchestrated a plan back in 2016-2017 to undo a democratically held election, openly, with almost no shame. It's still baffling to me that Lisa Page and Peter Strzok are not rotting in a federal prison. But anyways, airing my personal frustrations aside, I think the point's pretty clear that there's a problem when it comes to political bias in the federal government and the weaponization of that bias. And we see it time and time again. Just the other day, we covered the James O'Keefe clip where they caught a Pentagon official who formerly worked as an assistant for Hillary Clinton, admitting that he and other former generals were working to undermine Donald Trump if they were given the chance. They were, quote, figuring out how to do it. Obviously, we have a problem here. We're not just talking about Democrats serving in the federal government on a neutral, nonpartisan basis and then just voting for Democrats on their lunch break. We're talking about people who are actively working to subvert a duly elected administration. And the stories keep popping up. Take a look at this from the leading report, breaking. More than half a dozen local DC area police departments are refusing to assist the Metropolitan Police Department with security for the Trump inauguration, per Daily Caller. This is a big problem. We got employees working in these positions who are supposed to be rendering service, doing a job, protecting the people, and they're supposed to fulfill those duties regardless of politics, but that's not the case anymore. There's this culture that's been created where these shadowy groups feel justified in politically weaponizing their positions because in their minds, they're the heroes in some grand resistance narrative. And this clearly cannot work. Again, it's not a sustainable practice. You cannot have a federal workforce that is so ideologically lopsided that it essentially becomes a rogue entity doing its own thing and undermining the very own government that it's supposed to serve. And this is why the incoming Trump administration is absolutely right, as they recently voiced that they're going to tackle this issue. And of course, they're launching a full-scale investigation into the bureaucratic machine and federal workers. And Democrats, of course, are approaching this with the same angle that you might expect correct. Donald Trump wants to purge federal workers who aren't, quote, loyal to him. But it's not about loyalty to Trump, it's about creating a federal workforce that is balanced and fair. Because right now, it's not just a stacked deck, it's a freaking card factory pumping out nothing but aces for the Democrats. But of course, the left will spin this as Trump being some kind of dictator, right? And I guess that further justifies their resistance against him. What a ridiculous narrative, it's almost like it goes full circle. But no, you Democrat Karens. He wants a government that isn't actively working against the will of the voters. And what's the will of the voters right now? They put the president in office for a reason, for him to enact his policy vision that he sold to the American people. It's not about punishing dissent, it's about ensuring that federal employees do their jobs instead of playing this ridiculous resistance LARP. And now ultimately, let's not forget why this problem exists in the first place. You know, this corrupt Washington apparatus, essentially what it is leftism. This is what is bound to happen as government expands. Every time the Democrats expand the government with their socialist light policies, they're creating all kinds of new departments, new agencies that in the end will almost always naturally lean left. It's like a self-replicating virus. The more the government grows, the more it tilts Democrat, and then those Democrats hire more Democrats who hire more Democrats. And it goes on and on and on. It's a vicious cycle, and it needs to stop. And this is why Trump must follow through with his plan. He's got to take the Javier Milei approach.
Ministerio de Turismo y Deporte, afuera. Ministerio de Cultura, afuera. Ministerio de Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible, afuera. Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera. Ministerio de Obras Públicas, afuera.
It's got to happen, not just because it's a good idea and government spending should go down. It's not just policy. No, it's essential for the survival of a thriving free society and democracy. If the government is this bloated, this partisan and broken, then it's time for reforms. It's time for spring cleaning. Because what we're seeing now is not a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's a government of bureaucrats, by the bureaucrats, and for the bureaucrats. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Merrick Garland gets this standing ovation, and some people are seeing this clip and not thinking much of it. But the reality is that scene isn't a celebration of public service. It's a damning indictment of a federal government that has lost its way. What do you think they're cheering him on for? What did Merrick Garland do? Did he bring down crime? Did he curb crime? I mean, Democrats seem to care so much about gun violence. Did Merrick Garland do something to reduce gun violence? Did he tackle cartels, human smuggling organizations, terrorist organizations? Did he have some big grand slam case against a massive organized criminal enterprise? No, he weaponized the justice system to go after Donald Trump, and the Blue Swamp players are clearly very delighted with this man's dismal 4-year track record for that one and sole reason. And that right there, in my view, is very telling. In fact, it tells the whole story now, doesn't it? Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.